you. Good morning. Thank you for coming. Thanks so much. Thank you. Good to see you. Wonderful to be back in Polk County. And I'm joined with a lot of folks who you know well. Of course, you know our Attorney General, Ashley Moody, who's here with us. You know our Surgeon General, Dr. Joe Latipo. We have our ACA Secretary, Simone Marsteller. And we have Representatives Burton, Hawkins, Tomko, Killebrew, and Melanie Bell here with us today. And then we've got Bob LaValle right here who's going to talk about some of the issue that we're talking about here today. Some people may remember this, but it's been so long. One of the things we did when I first became governor is we wanted to find ways to access cheaper prescription drugs for Floridians, because that has been something that we pay an arm and a leg for in the United States for quite some time. And that was when President Trump was in office. That was even before we had the Biden inflation where everything's gone up. But this was something that continues to really pinch people's budgets, and it pinches the state of Florida's budget, because in our programs, when we do health programs, it causes the cost of those to go up dramatically. And so we were trying to figure out ways, okay, what can we do to make an impact? Of course, now you see, particularly over the last year and a half, you've seen big increases in groceries, you've seen big increases in energy, utilities, rent, all these different things with the Biden inflation. And so I think the drugs and being able to give some relief there, now more than ever is something that's very, very important. But back in 2019, my first year in office, we wanted to find ways. So we're limited as the state because a lot of this is controlled by the federal government. Obviously, Big Pharma is very powerful in Congress and with different people in Washington, and so they're able to structure this a lot of times in ways that benefit them over the average American. But we want to say, is there something a state could do? Well, we found there was a provision of a law from 2003 that said states could apply to HHS to purchase drugs from Canada. And so these are the same drugs that you purchase here. They're just like 80% cheaper or 75% cheaper. And it's all because, basically American consumers underwrite the entire pharmaceutical industry. They get cheaper prices everywhere else outside the United States, and then we basically fund all the research and development and everything that goes into producing these. And so it's definitely inequitable. And so we said, if we can use this program and be able to contract, even if we just started with state agencies contracting, we'd be able to save, $100 million, $200 million for taxpayers. And then obviously, that will trickle down to consumers, and we would be able to expand this. So I went up to Washington. I met with President Trump. I told them this is something that's really good. And a lot of people were telling him no, because you had Pharma doesn't like it. I actually was, had a discussion in the Oval Office with the president and people at HHS and these other agencies, and they were saying no, no, no. And basically they tried to say it's a safety issue. But people use drugs in Canada. This isn't Djibouti. I mean, it's a safe country, and so you can get drugs and do so. But it does involve relabeling and make sure that everything is accurate and they're bona fide pharmaceuticals and not counterfeit. So there is things to do, but that's something that's easily attainable. And so President Trump said, yes, I will approve. And so we developed, so the legislature passed this law saying Florida needs to develop a plan. We created this plan, and it took a long time to be able to get that just right. We sent it up to Washington during the Trump administration for approval from the FDA. So this was in the latter part of 2020, almost 2 years ago that they've had this. And we didn't know, like when Biden came in, whether this would be something that he would support or not. He actually said last summer, he signed an executive order saying he wants to approve these plans for states. And so that was, I think he did that in like June or July of 2021. And so here we are now. Our application has been, we were the first state to do this. Other states followed Florida's model. It's just been sitting at FDA for months and months and months, actually probably over a year and a half, and no action. And so Biden is saying he wants this for consumers, but yet his administration is not willing to act to be able to approve it so that people have access to more affordable pharmaceuticals. And so, our view is okay. When he said last summer that he supported it, we were hoping that we would get an answer. I think it's even hard. I mean, some of these folks will tell you, it's hard to even meet with people at the FDA. Very dismissive, very arrogant with how they've gone about this stuff. But our view is we need to keep pressing forward. So after 630 days, we still sit here waiting for an answer. And so it's our view that we've waited long enough. And so today we're taking action. The state of Florida has now filed a lawsuit against the FDA. They have unlawfully withheld and unreasonably delayed approval of Florida's program, and we think this violates federal law. So we're asking a federal judge to order the FDA to put an end to that delay and to approve Florida's program. Included in the lawsuit are claims under the Federal Freedom of Information Act. In early July, ACA filed a FOIA request seeking records from the FDA to increase transparency on their approval process. Under the Act, FDA had 30 working days to respond to our request, and I don't think you'll be too surprised, we still have not received a response to our request. So the clock's been ticking. We have a right to know what the FDA has been doing the last 2 years to ensure that are they putting politics over patients? Are they putting the interest of big pharma over the interest of average Floridians and taxpayers? And that's what we need to find out. So we've been continuing to push for transparency. Why are we here? Because this is a distribution facility. All this stuff is ready to go at this point. It's turnkey. We have people that are dealing with the Canadian companies. We will have them, they can be brought here. They get labeled properly, inspected, and then they can then be used in the general public. Obviously, Florida is going to buy a lot of these for our programs. It's going to save us a huge amount of money. So all this stuff is locked and loaded, ready to go, and it has been ready to go for quite some time. So we've been waiting and waiting and waiting. We've done everything that we need to do to get this moving, and I think it's really, really important. I mean, especially when you see what's happened, particularly over the last year and a half, with some of the stuff with big pharma, some of the things they've put out on these vaccines and all this other stuff. People want transparency, and we need to have the truth on all this stuff. And so this is an example of ways to be able to access medications at a much cheaper price by removing some of the bureaucracy, some of the restrictions, and some of the red tape. We also did an executive order recently where our agencies, when they negotiate, are basically cutting out these middlemen, because these middlemen charge a lot of money and they pass those costs on consumers. So we're looking at all different ways we can act to be able to help folks. And so today's lawsuit, I think, is very, very important. We think this is urgent, and we think we deserve a response very quickly. And so I know the Attorney General's team is going to be in court on this and are going to work really hard to get good relief for the people of the state of Florida. So this is yet another way where we're innovating and leading the country. No one was talking about this until we stepped forward, passed our legislation several years ago, submitted our plan, very well thought out plan, to the Trump administration, and then have been waiting now under the Biden administration. But a bunch of other states have followed suit and have tried to follow. And I'd hate to think that the Biden administration would not approve it just because it's Florida, because they have issues with Florida politically. I hope that that's not the case, because on issues like this will benefit people of all walks of life, regardless of any political persuasion. So hopefully they'll just do the right thing. It's unfortunate that we had to do this, but at the end of the day, we've waited long enough, and we've been very patient. And we've provided information when they've asked for it, but yet we've not gotten a response. And so if you're for doing this and you say you want us to be able to do this under a law that's been in existence for almost 20 years, well, then now's the time to stand up and make that very clear. And if you think about what we're seeing, our drug prices are twice, 3 times, depending on the drug, way higher than the average price of drugs in other parts of the world and in other countries. And so we're dealing with PBM markups. That obviously does it, but then access to other markets will be very, very good. So we want to be able to have accountability. We want to be able to defend the taxpayer, and I'm happy that we're taking action today. I remember being here. I mean, when were we here last time? It was like
May of last year.
Yeah, so we were here last spring the spring of 2021, and we were hoping that we would get a response. And then that's when later the president issued his executive order saying this is something that he was telling the FDA to move forward with. So we thought, man, maybe we got some movement here. And then we waited. I think the FDA, what did they say eventually? Like, oh, we'll meet with you like in the spring of 22 was like their initial thing. So like literally they approved, they say do it in the summer of 21. We try to get moving on it and they'll say, okay, we're going to address it many months later. So that's just dragging your feet, and that's not the way we want government to operate. So we're happy to be here. We shouldn't be here, but we're happy that we're not just going to take this lion down. So we'll hear from some other folks. So Attorney General.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you so much for being here today. I know many of you took time out of your lives to be here from work or from your families. This isn't such an incredibly important issue. And I want to point out the tremendous attention to detail and willingness to get things done by this governor and to think outside the box. He is always looking for new and innovative ways, things that we haven't done before, to achieve progress for Florida. And in this situation, as you heard him say, this law's been on the books for a while. He said, why are we not doing this? I mean, the drugs are over 200% more costly to Americans where we can just get them at a cheaper savings from Canada. This seems like somebody would have figured this out before, but thanks to this governor who is willing to drill down on the details, Florida stands ready to benefit. And more importantly, you, the taxpayers, stand ready to save $150 million a year if we can push this through. It is so important, and we have filed suit this morning to not only seek documents and as to why this has been pending for so long. I mean, we filed our application. Florida was the first right before Biden took office. And we've been waiting and waiting and waiting. And when he came out and said this is important and demanded that the FDA work with the states to get this done, maybe he meant except Florida. We were the first. We have all our ducks in a row. We have our facilities. We've dedicated funding. We're ready to help Floridians because of this governor and our great leadership in our legislature. And I would like to say that it's because it's sitting on someone's desk. But I think we all know that this administration is not quick to act to get things done for Florida. And what is so frustrating as the Attorney General is this is becoming such a common plea, such a common demand. Washington, Biden administration, do something. Do something. On the border, do something. Stop fentanyl, do something. Lower prescription drug costs for Americans, do something. It has become the do-nothing administration, and I just want you to hear this. Compare that to Florida, where this guy, every time he comes up with something new, he's like, get it done. Now, I would like to tell you that doesn't mean that it is a lot of hard work as the Attorney General for a governor like this. Where I come from, where I grew up, we had a saying, get her done. This is the get it done administration, and compare that to the Washington, Biden, do nothing administration. And it is unfortunate that we are now a year and 8 months into the administration, and we are now having to file suit to get them to do something. An agency of the administration cannot just sit on applications. They have to act with reasonable timeliness. They can't unreasonably delay. And it is sad, again, that we as Florida have had to bring suit against our own government in Washington to get them to do something. But sadly, here we are today. So I want to thank you for paying attention to this, for being here to help us make this important announcement, for supporting us as leaders of this great state as we push this administration to act in a reasonable manner to benefit all Americans, in this instance, Floridians, and recognize and understand that all of us standing up here, from the Surgeon General, from Secretary Marstiller to the Governor, all of your leaders here, we are doing something. We are getting it done for the benefit of Floridians, and I'm honored, tired, to serve as Attorney General with this great governor. Thank you, Governor DeSantis.
Okay, Surgeon General Joe Ladapo.
Hello, good morning. So, this is an interesting issue, and it has overlap with some other issues that we've discussed. I've had the pleasure to discuss with the governor. So, the facts are very clear. I have the Department of Health, we have county health departments, we prescribe medications for diabetes, for COPD, asthma, for HIV, other chronic conditions. And Florida went through the process, first took the initiative of this 20-year-old law that, that provides this much room for states to be able to get drugs from Canada for lower prices, and it's this narrow, right? They weren't trying to make it possible. That's why it took 20 years, and a governor who actually cares about people and about what he thinks matters to take it up and move it forward. And Florida developed a very detailed, the Attorney General described it and the Governor described it, a very detailed plan for how we would, it's a Section 804 importation plan, for how we would import drugs, chemically analyze them to ensure that they're not counterfeit and there aren't any significant safety concerns, distribute them, make sure they stay within the state, because part of the law required that drugs only stay within the state, so they can't go to other states. In other words, other states can't enjoy the benefits of lower prices for drugs if we actually get them from Canada to this state. And so I looked at this report. It's like 200 pages long or something. I mean, it's very detailed, and all of these pieces are in place. We start the process under the governor's leadership in, I think, 2020 or so, and almost 2 years later, the FDA is not responded to our request to move forward. So, what's behind this? So I will tell you what I think is behind this based on my assessment of the evidence. And what's behind this, I think, is, the pharmaceutical industry is going to do what they do. And what they do is that they lobby for laws that keep their profits as high as possible. It's not about you and me, sick people. That's not what it's about. That's what it's lobbying for, laws that keep their profits high, is certainly how they've behaved. But it's up to leaders to make choices that they think will benefit people. And my sense from looking at everything is that leaders in the federal government right now, the FDA, the Biden administration, have prioritized the interests of pharma, and be very clear, their interest is to keep their profits high, and they do that best by making Americans pay more for drugs than anyone else in the country, anyone else in the world, rather than what's best for Floridians and what's best for other Americans, which is to stop this, complete highway robbery in terms of the markup with drugs. And I'm for, people making profits. That's wonderful, but with pharmaceutical drugs, it's, you need a new word. It's not even profits, right, to describe what's going on. And I want to say two other things real briefly. So one thing that the pharmaceutical industry likes to convince people is true is that is that, you know, this extra profits, these extra prices, these high prices that we pay in this country are so they can do research and development. So there are two important things about that you should know. First of all, the research and development that they do, a third of it, maybe more, is not for new drugs. It's for new formulations, new dosing, combination drugs, basically ways to kind of keep their exclusive hold on drugs. The second thing that you should know is that a lot of the innovation, it doesn't happen in the pharmaceutical industry. It happens at universities, and they come in and they swoop in and they partner with universities, and they, you know, and then they call the drug theirs, and they even take credit for it oftentimes, even though they weren't involved in the actual research and development. So, you know, those are just some points I want to share with you. I'm happy that you know, we have a governor who cares about people and puts people over pharmaceutical industry interests. And it'd be nice if we saw that in the federal government, because this, you know, we wouldn't be having the conversation today. We'd be importing drugs already, or maybe we'd even have lower prices here. Who knows? All right, thank you.
Who would you rather have, Latipo or Fauci? Okay, ACA Secretary Simone Marsteller.
Thank you. Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, what you've heard today, you should be hearing a lot of frustration. And this has been a frustrating process from the, you know, macro to the micro. My team and I have had so many meetings with the FDA, it's not even funny. But all we've gotten is word salad, bureaucracy, stonewalling, stiff-arming, and stall tactics. This thing has been sitting on somebody's desk for well over 600 days. This is not what government is supposed to do. Government is supposed to serve you, which you all see by the example that Governor DeSantis shows, that General Moody shows. We are here to do what is right for the people of the state of Florida. I am appalled personally. I'm appalled as a citizen of the United States that this is happening. I cannot believe that we actually have to sue the FDA to do its job. It's outrageous, and you all should be outraged and just as frustrated as we are. Now, we know that there are, you know, reasons for this, be they political, be they corporate, whatever the case may be. We don't have time for that. Governor DeSantis has been steadfast in developing healthcare policy that is good for the people of the state of Florida, and ultimately, if other people followed his lead, would be good for the people of the entire country, right? We know that what we need in healthcare today is transparency. We need some aspect of consumerism. We need to disrupt the process and the industry. No question about it. So in addition to the Canadian Drug Importation Program, which, ladies and gentlemen, we pray one day we will be able to fill these racks and actually start to achieve the savings that we know we can achieve for the people of the state of Florida, upwards of $150 million. To me, it's a no-brainer. But we're not resting. The governor has directed his agencies, my own included, to look at the pharmacy benefit manager complex, for lack of a better term, and this is what they are. Basically, they are middlemen between your doctor and your pharmacy that are increasing the prices of your drugs. Bottom line. And so the governor has directed his agencies, mine included, to make sure that we start shining the light on those kinds of practices, that there is transparency in those processes. I know we're going to get a lot of, you know, wailing and gnashing of teeth, but it needs to be done, because this is the only way that you and me are going to be able to start affording our health care and our prescription drugs. So we are in the process, Governor, of amending the contracts that we have with our health plans who deliver health care services to our Medicaid subscribers. We are in the process right now of amending those contracts to include provisions that open up the transparency so that we can see what's really going on in pharmacy benefit manager land. The other thing that my agency is preparing to do is to negotiate some lower prices for certain injectable drugs like insulin or epinephrine that are not currently included by federal law in the Canadian prescription program. We want to make sure, I mean, insulin, epinephrine, those are things that millions of people need. The prices are too darn high. So I was going to curse, but I'm not going to. And we need to disrupt that process. And so what we are going to do at ACA is engage a company to get out there and negotiate those prices down, because the time has finally come for us to say not just no, but hell no, we're not going to continue to pay these prices to the pharmaceutical companies. We're done. We are done. And I want to thank the governor and the attorney general for putting their collective feet down and saying no more. Thank you.
Well, thanks to Secretary Marstiller, and ACA has worked on this for a long time. In fact, our current DCF Secretary Siobhan Harris was initially at ACA getting this, and she did a great job. Simone came in and really got it across the finish line for where we've done everything that we've been asked to do and that we're required to do under the law. So now it's just a matter of getting these shelves filled. And as Joe said, people, we want people to do well, businesses to do well. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being profitable, but what we have here with the pharmaceuticals and the pharmacy benefit managers, you have basically laws and regulations that are propping those profits up artificially, and that's causing you to pay more. But it isn't like that's a free market that we're paying so much more than Canada or these other places. And so we are intentionally basically forced to pay more the way the market has been structured, and that's a lot of legislation, a lot of regulation, a lot of different things that have happened over the years to get us into this spot. And so people provide services, good, we want you to do well, but to kind of have laws designed to be able to artificially keep your profits high, that's not free market at all. And so we recognize that. All right, Bob, you ready to go?
All right.
You want to come up?
Sure.
Okay. Got it.
Thank you, Governor, and all that's involved. My name is Bob LaValle, and I'm from Marion County. And this is a personal speech that I'm going to have, or a couple of minutes. We are obviously senior citizens. I know you don't think so, but I am 69 years old. My wife is 65, and we both have life-saving medicines that we need. In 2015, I suffered a stroke. By the grace of God, and my doctors, I'm okay, except for a little bit of word stuff. I have to have a medicine that's called Eliquis, and it's a life-saving medicine. My wife has to have medicine called Advair, and next month I will be making a decision, because next month I'm going to have a refill for 90 days supply that I've been using all since 2015. The cost of this medicine is going to be about north of $500 for a 90-day supply. My wife is it's gonna cost the Advair about north of $300 for a 90-day supply. I used to work after the stroke. I was okay, and then I was able to work, so I could supplement, you know, the food and the medicine. Well, due to unfortunate circumstances, I lost my job. Therefore, I lost my income. Therefore, I lost means to get the medicine. So this next month in September, we're going to have to decide either it's going to be medicine or food. And that's a big decision, but we have to do it, or we're not going to be able to pay our bills. So I just wanted to know. I just wanted to know that I really, really appreciate the governor and all that's involved for doing this. It's going to be a lifesaver in itself. So please support whatever you can to this effort. And I really, really, really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
Thank you. Good job. Thank you. Good job. Really good job. Thank you. And so you hear different stories like that, then you think to yourself, if he and his wife were just in one of these other countries, then they probably wouldn't even have this problem. Same drug. You know, it's one thing if this were just something that no one could get anywhere, but it's really the crunch is in our country because of the way these laws are. So we're doing our part. As Joe said, a very, very narrow provision of federal law. I don't know how it got through. Maybe I'm sure they lobbied to get it as narrow as possible. But we're driving through that, and we're trying to bring relief to the people of Florida.